I never expected this at the celebration party my girlfriend was hosting, everyone deciding to play a round of truth or dare. Her first love, with his slightly narrowed, charming eyes and a handsome face still carrying a faint flush from the alcohol, just casually blurted it out. Sneaking into Tumtang Mart's room on the night of his engagement and staying until morning, would that be considered going too far? Loud laughter instantly erupts all around, and Tumtang Mart actually smiles back with total tolerance. But his fiancée is Mongzio, and Tumtang Mart is supposed to be my girlfriend. Today is simply a celebration party for a massive deal her studio successfully locked down.
Tumtang Mart rented out an entire luxury yacht, gathering a whole group of our friends together on board.
Out on the deck, everyone is happily eating and drinking, voices buzzing with laughter as they all congratulate her on her constantly rising career. I stand right beside her, my hand resting lightly on her arm, soaking in all the praise from our friends together. She is glowing with confidence, a perfect smile resting on her lips as she smoothly handles every conversation, the absolute main character of the night. That is, until someone glances around the deck and asks out of sheer curiosity why Mong Yu isn't here today. She usually never misses social events like this at all. Especially when Tumtang Mart and Yi Deng-tang are both present. Someone immediately chimes in right after, bringing up how she previously mentioned she was busy negotiating a pretty massive foreign trade order. The client is all the way in Eastern Europe, and the time difference and negotiation pace are extremely tight. She had to fly over there personally to supervise everything. Absolutely no way she could split herself. I give a small nod, my gaze accidentally sweeping over Yi Deng-tang, standing right next to Tumtang Mart. He is Mong Yo's fiancé, and also the most passionate first love of Tumtang Mart's youth. Today, he is wearing a perfectly tailored white suit, his collar left slightly open, looking beautifully radiant under the lights, like a genuinely glowing statue. After 3 rounds of drinks, the atmosphere just keeps getting livelier. Someone suggests playing truth or dare, and the spinning bottle finally stops right in front of a slightly tipsy Yi Deng-tang. His eyes shine even brighter under the lights, the corners of his mouth curling into a slightly teasing smile. Amidst the loud cheering from the crowd, he confidently chooses dare. A card is drawn, and the reader shouts it out excitedly, as if wanting to stir up absolute chaos. Share the one thing you have done that crossed the line the most. Boom. The crowd instantly erupts.
Yi Deng-tang's gaze pierces through the crowd, locking accurately onto Tumtang Mart as she stands surrounded by friends. Then he tilts his head slightly and looks right at me.
The guy standing near Tumtang Mart flashes a devastatingly handsome smile, but it immediately sends a freezing chill straight down my spine. His thin lips twitch slightly, and his alcohol-laced voice rings out with terrifying clarity.
"Oh, you are not ready for this," he says. "Sneaking into Tumtang Mart's room on my engagement night until morning, does that count as crossing a line?"
A deadly silence stretches out for just a split second, and then the whole crowd erupts into even louder cheers, almost wanting to flip the entire deck over. People shout about how incredible he is, praising Tumtang Mart too, calling it a truly unbeatable kind of love. Doing this on an engagement night is just way too thrilling. My blood practically stops flowing in that exact moment, my fingertips turning completely ice cold. I stand totally frozen in place, feeling every sharp needle-like gaze turning toward me. But in reality, they aren't even looking at me. They are looking straight through me, happily reminiscing about that so-called legendary, totally earth-shattering romance of theirs. Meanwhile, I am just the useless extra standing on the sidelines of their epic tale. Nobody even notices my pale face or my completely stiff body. Someone even jokes around saying it is lucky Mengzio is busy with a massive deal and absent. Otherwise, this prank would make her die of pure embarrassment. Laughter echoes. That casual comment basically stamps a harmless label onto this absolutely absurd situation, simply because the main character isn't around. Pure ice. My heart completely sinks. I immediately turn my head to look at Tumtang Mart. She spaces out briefly, then looks down and gently swirls the wine glass in her hand, her lips curling into a vague smile, somewhat nostalgic, somewhat tolerant. From start to finish, she never looks at me, never steps in to stop it, offers zero explanation, and doesn't even show a single ounce of guilt. She completely silently accepts that boundary-crossing memory, fully embraces Yi Dong-tung's public declaration, and just lets me, her official, recognized boyfriend, bear the heavy weight of this massive, crushing humiliation all on my own.
I genuinely feel like an absolute walking joke right now. The party game continues on, charging forward like a completely wild horse into increasingly absurd territory. Next round, the bottle seems totally cursed as it points directly at Thum Tang Mart. She draws a card, and it demands she recreate a classic romantic movie scene with one of the guys present at the party.
Can you feel the absolute dread here? Almost in total unison, every single gaze, filled with excitement and encouragement, shifts toward Yi Dong-tang, the guy who dropped that bombshell.
The cheering grows even louder and feels incredibly fitting. I look over at Thum Tang Mart, and amidst all that noise, she flashes a somewhat helpless smile that actually reveals a tiny hint of enjoyment.
I glance over at Yi Dong-tang, and his face shows this mix of sheer confidence and provocation, calmly soaking in every single look from the crowd.
Crack. In that exact second, I clearly hear something shattering deep inside my chest. It is the absolute collapse of my final ounce of trust for Thum Tang Mart, and the very last remaining fragment of the love I once held for her.
Out on the deck, the whole place suddenly turns into this makeshift stage. Every single light, every single pair of eyes is locked right on those two. Someone shouts out Titanic, and just like that, amidst the deafening cheers, Thum Tang Mart flashes this smile, looking a little helpless, but definitely enjoying it.
She walks right up to the deck railing, faces the ocean.
Yi Dong-tang catches the hint. He steps up quietly, reaching his arms around from behind to gently pull her close.
He rests his hands right over hers on the railing, pulling off an absolutely perfect recreation of that classic, world-famous Titanic pose.
Yi Dong-tang rests his chin in the crook of her shoulder, leaning in closely to whisper something that only the two of them can actually hear.
Our guy, Tran Trek, cannot quite catch the words, but he sees her body tense up for a second before totally relaxing. Her face even flushes red. He knows for a fact it is absolutely nothing he wants to hear. All around them, the crowd is just going wild with deafening cheers and rapid whistling.
The crowd is eating this up. It is like they are witnessing this touching, emotional reunion of some legendary past romance.
Meanwhile, Tran Trek, just standing there, a totally forgotten, useless extra. Just watching his own girlfriend and another guy easily putting on this show right in front of him, honoring their unforgettable, deep-rooted past. His eyes flick over to a silver ice bucket chilling some premium caviar on the banquet table. That is the one. Zero hesitation. His brain gets completely taken over by pure, cold rage. He charges straight forward, grabbing that heavy bucket with both hands. And before anyone can even react, he uses every ounce of his strength to slam it right down onto Yi Dong-tang's head. A miserable scream rips right through the lively atmosphere, totally drowning out the music and cheering as freezing ice water completely drenches the guy. His meticulously styled hair is a total mess, water dripping down his face, that expensive suit soaked and clinging right to his skin. He looks absolutely pathetic. He is violently shaking from the freezing cold, screaming his head off like some terrified peacock. The world finally goes dead silent. All that laughter, all those cheers, totally stuck in everyone's throats.
Chen Jack tosses the bucket aside, glaring at a stunned Yi Dong-tang. He tells him coldly, "Let the ice cool that hot head and wash away your shady morals while you are at it."
A brief, heavy silence passes. Then Thum Tang Mart is actually the first to react. She violently shoves him back, making him stumble and almost lose his footing. Not even checking if he is okay, she immediately rips off her coat to wrap it tightly around a shivering Yi Dong-tang, treating this guy like some precious treasure she needs to protect. Then she snaps her head around, screaming right at him, "Tran Trek, are you completely insane? I just cannot understand you." That yell hits him like cold water to the face, instantly killing off any hesitation, pain, or bitterness left inside him. Standing tall, he just shoots this freezing glare at her and Yi Dong-tang. The guy is still sobbing in her arms, but sneaks this wildly provocative, mocking glance right at Tran Trek. All around them, the crowd is stunned, with mixed expressions. He takes a deep breath, his chest aching numbly, but his voice comes out weirdly calm.
Open your eyes and see for yourself who the truly unreasonable one is here. Thumbtang Mart, you and I are officially done.
Done talking. He doesn't even spare her another glance, just turning toward the gangway.
Behind him, he faintly hears Yi Dong-tang crying even louder, Thumbtang Mart offering these low, comforting whispers, and the hushed, gossiping murmurs of the entire crowd.
But none of that matters to him anymore. Thumbtang Mart doesn't chase him at all. Her entire focus is glued to that man faking his little pity party.
You can feel it, right? That inner chill cuts deeper than any ocean breeze.
A totally sleepless night. He is sitting on the sofa, still wearing yesterday's clothes. All that intense, burning fury from the night before has just settled into this deep, numb emptiness.
Suddenly, the doorbell rings, totally shattering the silence. He doesn't even bother checking the pee hole, just pulling the door straight open.
Standing outside, Yi Dong-tang, his face covered in this anxious, guilty look.
He is carrying this clearly expensive cake box, acting like the complete opposite of his pathetic, arrogant mess last night. He says he is here to apologize, claims he drank too much and misspoke, hoping Tronchek won't hold a grudge.
His voice is super soft, even trying to suck up a bit. Trunchuk coldly steps aside to let him in, just wanting to see what kind of act this guy is trying to pull now.
He sits down, places that cake box directly on the coffee table.
Without saying much, those supposedly innocent eyes flick over Trantrak's face before pulling out his phone. He admits a simple apology might be pretty hard to believe. A brief look of awkwardness crosses his face. He claims that Thumbtang Mart actually ended up regretting what happened yesterday too. They were just talking, supposedly getting closure on their past. She was afraid of a misunderstanding, especially asking him to explain. Tronchek's expression doesn't shift at all. Are you kidding? Thumbtang Mart regretting it? Her fierce protection last night sure didn't look like regret. Yi Dong-tang just taps his phone a few times, and right after that, an audio recording starts playing out loud. The voices on the track are a little muffled with some background static, but you can easily recognize them. It is definitely Thumbtang Mart and Yi Dong-tang. In it, Yi Dong-tang chuckles, asking, "Sister Thang Mart, tell me, if Meng Yu knew her engagement night actually turned into our wedding party, how do you think her face would look?" It would definitely be so interesting. Then Thumbtang Mart's low voice replies, dripping with this painfully obvious spoiling affection. Not that the content fully crosses the line just yet, but seeing them so close, treating Meng Yao's genuine love like some twisted joke, it literally makes me choke on my own anger. Yi Dong-tang snatches his phone back. No guilt at all on his face, just this incredibly smug, challenging smirk on full display. I clench my fist so hard my nails dig straight into my skin, using the sharp pain to force myself to stay calm. I stare right into his eyes, voice totally rough. Yi Dong-tang, aren't you terrified I will tell Meng Jiao everything? She loves you so much. He acts like that is the funniest joke ever, giving a disgusted little sneer. Go ahead and tell her, see if she believes me. Will she believe her official fiancé, who she loves completely? Or some jealous outsider making up wild stories to tear them apart like you? Those exact words absolutely shatter my last bit of hope. Why would Meng Yu ever believe me? To her, I am just some petty, jealous guy trying to ruin someone else. And right at that exact moment, the door lock clicks. Thumbtang Mart is back. She freezes seeing me và Yi Dong-tang trong phòng khách. Nữ mì buôn tạt. Yi Dong-tang, why are you here? In one split second, the guy flips his entire expression, eyes getting teary, looking completely bullied, and trying to hide his pain.
I just came by to say sorry to Trum.
I stand right up, ignoring his pathetic act, and lock eyes with Thumbtang Mart. My voice drops, cold as steel. At Meng Jiao's engagement party, what exactly did you two do? And what is the deal with that recording? Thumbtang Mart goes completely pale. She shoots Yi Dong-tang this sharp glare and snaps, "You went way too far. Why record that nonsense?" Then she spins toward me, looking incredibly annoyed, and snaps, "We were just drunk and joking around. He recorded it for fun." Jack, can you just stop? What is the point of always picking every little thing apart? She does not even ask what I heard. No real explanation, absolutely no comfort for me, her actual official boyfriend. To her, everything is my fault. Then she angrily slams the door and leaves me alone with Yi Dong-tang's triumphant, disgusting smile. The deep sorrow inside me slowly freezes over, turning into something completely cold and rock solid. Luckily, right before Yi Dong-tang walked in, I already got myself completely prepared for this. A few days pass. Tum-tang Mat tries smoothing things over, inviting me to a private, high-end club with her close friends. I agree, not to forgive her, but to gather more evidence for my actual plan. The private room is super dim, smelling like heavy alcohol, filled with all the usual faces. Somebody casually asks, "Where is Mong Yu?" Another friend answers, "Her Eastern Europe deals are delayed, paperwork is stuck, so she had to stay behind." And just like that, Mong Yu's absence becomes the perfect cover for everything. Everyone totally forgets the yacht drama. They just crowd around Tum-tang Mat and Yi Dong-tang, excitedly bringing up all their old college memories together. Those exact memories that I was never part of, yet they always get dragged out. Someone even jokes, if not for past obstacles, you two would be a real couple now. So loaded with meaning. I am completely ignored like air. Someone even raises a glass, cheering for Thang Mart and Thing's loyal friendship. Cheers! I stare at them. Tum-tang Mat calmly accepts it. Yi Dong-tang just soaks up the praise. Inside, I feel nothing but a heavy gray emptiness. My mind suddenly drifts to Monk Yil, such a smart, incredibly decisive woman. Now think about this for a second. If she knew her trusted friend and her fiancé were pulling these dirty tricks back home while she worked so hard, how would she react? With her strong, pretty possessive personality, I am honestly terrified she would just absolutely lose her mind with rage. That thought quickly fades into deep helplessness. Yi Dong-thing was right. If I opened my mouth, who would Mong Ziyu even believe? Some random outsider like me, or the man she completely loves and the friend she cherishes. I am forever just an outsider here. Halfway through, the absolute gentlest, calmest girl in their friend group quietly pulls me into a corner. She acts super sincere, advising me, "Counterattack, some things are just silently understood."
Từ Thẩm Thanh Mạc, Yi Dong-tang is entirely special, her untouchable white moonlight. To date her, you must be generous. Don't make a fuss, or you will be the only one looking bad.
Why even bother? I just smirk. So silently swallowing disrespect is what they consider being noble and understanding. Near the end, Yi Dong-tang furrows his pretty brows, touching his forehead with a tired tone. "Oh, I feel dizzy. Drink too fast." Tum-tang Mat instantly stands up, naturally grabbing his arm to support him. She turns to me, entirely casual, like discussing the weather. Yi Dong-tang is not feeling well, so I am taking him home first. "Just call a cab yourself. Be careful." She doesn't even glance at me, just carefully guiding Yi Dong-tang out the room and heading straight for his expensive supercar. Completely ignoring how hard it is to get a cab here. But watch this. I stand alone outside, watching their taillights fade. Zero hesitation. I pull out my phone and dial the lawyer my friends recommended. "Hello, Lawyer Lam. This is Counterattack speaking. I need to ask about ending an intimate, non-marital relationship. How do I fully protect my legal rights?" My voice sounds so incredibly calm that I actually surprise myself. On the other end of the line is Lam Nur Khan. She is a calm, highly professional lawyer, radiating this quiet strength that just puts you at ease. She carefully asks about the related assets, especially the fact that Tum-tang Mat and I co-founded and currently run the Mat Track Design Studio together. "Mr. Tran," she says, "I completely understand your situation. Unmarried cohabitation makes splitting assets way more complicated than a standard divorce, especially when there is a joint business, company shares, and a lot of cash flow involved. We need a solid chain of evidence, specifically proof showing the other party has been intentionally transferring and maliciously hiding those joint assets. My goal is crystal clear here. I firmly tell her that the financial interests must be calculated perfectly. Whatever she moved away, I want her coughing up double that amount." The other side goes quiet for a second, before answering firmly. "Understood," she tells me. "I will support you with everything I have. We will start with a full financial audit of the studio first." I hang up the phone. The room falls dead silent as I open my laptop and start taking notes. I start linking together all those weird little details and the incredibly vague projects she pitched. Unusually massive expenses. Completely unclear reserve funds. All my previous pain and sorrow have now transformed into one coldly rational plan. I am no longer someone who relies on Tum-tang Mat. I do not need her love or her validation anymore. From this exact moment, I am a warrior taking my life back, a perfectly cold avenger. Under Lam Noor Khan's expert guidance, the real operation begins. Now watch how this plays out. Using the excuse of standardizing our financial processes for strategic fundraising, I force a highly reputable independent audit team right into the studio, completely ignoring Tham Tham Mat's annoyed frown. Maybe she still feels a bit guilty about that whole yacht incident, or maybe she is just overly confident in her hiding skills, but she does not violently object. The final results make me smile coldly. For over a year, using the disguise of project reserve funds, collaboration fees, and technical consulting, she continuously transferred more than $8 million into an offshore company account located in the Virgin Islands. Tracking through multiple corporate layers via special channels, Lam Noor Khan finally uncovers the ultimate beneficiary behind it all. A name that makes me clench my fists hard, Yang Dang Tang. But I definitely do not just stop there. I remember Tham Tham Mat's old laptop sitting abandoned in the office, using the excuse that some old documents still haven't been sorted out yet. Thanks to a technician the lawyer recommended, I restore the encrypted hidden partition on the hard drive. What I find inside chills my heart completely, but it also guarantees my absolute victory. A massive series of private emails and chats between her and Ya Dongtang. The words go way beyond normal friendship boundaries, packed with romance, recalling intimate nights, and even actively mocking me in Mondu. But the most dangerous thing I find is a highly detailed plan. In it, they map out how to slowly transfer all core clients in patent applications from MatTrack to a brand new company under Y Dangtang's name, completely draining the studio dry. Not only betraying my feelings, they also wanted to steal our shared life's work. Ironclad evidence that absolutely cannot be denied. A few days later, I arranged to meet Tham Tham Mat at a very quiet cafe. She shows up looking completely bored, clearly assuming I am just digging up old drama again. I do not waste words. I slide an extract from the audit report right across to her, along with the printed emails and their little master plan. You can guess exactly what happens next. Her face goes from surprised to utterly terrified, turning pale white as cold sweat breaks out. Explain this, I say, my voice dead flat, or listen to my terms. These are the two exact options Lam Noor Khan prepared for me. Option 1, she willingly signs a complete non-refundable transfer agreement right away. She signs over all her studio shares to me without receiving a single dime in compensation, while also using her own pocket money to fully reimburse me for all the dispersed assets and related damages, an absolutely massive, crushing sum that is almost impossible for her to bear. 2. I immediately report her for misappropriation of joint assets and commercial fraud while sending a copy of all this evidence to Mong Diu and every single friend who attended the party the other night.
Tham Tham Mat trembles as she tries defending herself. Her dry voice claims it was just an investment to help Yi Dangtang's business, and the plan was merely a joke.
But facing this irrefutable chain of evidence, every single word she tries to say just becomes incredibly weak and entirely ridiculous. She slumps back down into her chair, looking like all her strength has been completely drained away. She knows perfectly well that if she chooses the second path, she loses money, the studio, her reputation, her future, and even Mengdu's trust forever. Inside that familiar little social circle of ours. Things were already twisted anyway. Finally, with hands shaking so violently she can barely even hold the pen, she is forced to sign the agreement that Lam Noor Khan prepared. After signing, she looks up at me with an incredibly complex stare, filled with resentment, total unwillingness, and just a hint of disbelief. She grits her teeth, grinding out every word. Tran-track, you are so evil. I never thought you could be this cold. I carefully fold up the agreement, double-checking the signature before slipping it right into my bag. My expression remains perfectly calm. Compared to what you guys did to me, this is absolutely nothing. The first step is a complete success. I take back full ownership of the studio, along with a massive compensation payout. Tham Tham Mat went from sitting high up in the clouds to crashing straight down into the mud overnight. That hateful glare she gave me while signing still lingers in my mind,
But it does not shake me at all. If anything, it only makes my resolve that much stronger.
They really do not deserve peace. Late at night, he sits completely alone in his office. The desk lamp lights up a flash drive and some printed documents. It has the shady recording, detailed breakdown of the weird finances, and the client stealing plan from Tang Mart's computer.
Private chats with Tang, all copied right on to one completely normal-looking flash drive.
That guy never expected that before opening the door for him that day, our guy already hit record. In the printed stack, the first page summarizes cash flow. On the last page, he prints a special note. Dear Miss Monkziu, what you treasure might not be the actual truth. No signature, no contact info. He carefully packs everything into a thick, sealed envelope and sends it entirely anonymously to Monkziu's company. He knows she is still over in Eastern Europe. But get this little gift will wait quietly in her office for her return. He pictures it perfectly, opening it, facing the naked betrayal of her lover and best friend. Pure shock and fury. Will she believe it completely? He is not entirely sure. Whether she confront Tang or not is a total mystery, but he absolutely has to plant this seed of doubt. Later on, through some gossip channels, he hears the outcome. Monkziu really got that gift and totally exploded, going straight to confront Kang herself.
At first, he actually tries denying it, crying and playing the victim.
But against such sharp evidence, there is zero hiding. Where it is, in her extreme anger and heartbreak, Monkziu lost all control and got physical. Tang got beaten up pretty badly. The news is vague, but enough to picture the intense chaos of that moment. Hearing this, his mind is strangely quiet, like reading some random social news having nothing to do with him. Midsummer, actions finally meet their consequences. That is all. After signing the agreement, Tang Mart never returns to their shared apartment ever again. That works fine. No more dragging things out. With Lum Nurkan's help, the share transfer goes through incredibly fast. Once the business registration updates, the name Mart Trek Design officially becomes a thing of the past. He changes it to Chun Trek Design. It takes his name and signals a fresh start, just like dawn lighting up the road ahead. A crew clears out every single thing belonging to Tang Mart. Locks changed, passwords reset, every trace wiped clean. The office gets renovated into a brighter, simpler style, matching his current mindset for a clean slate. He personally contacts every single key client they have. Explaining the situation briefly, he promises that all projects will still be delivered with perfect precision. Thanks to his solid professional reputation and calm resolve, most of them totally understand and support him. The business actually thrives instead of tanking. Because all those ideas Tang Mart used to hold back are now freely unleashed. Chunchak Designs has truly turned a brand new page. Meanwhile, news about Tang Mart trickles in. The massive compensation basically wiped out all her personal assets, throwing her right into absolute desperate poverty. The people who used to praise her now avoid her completely, scared of being asked for money. And Tang? Monkziu beat him into critical condition after the truth dropped. Their relationship is completely and utterly shattered. Monkziu cut off all material support, leaving him struggling. Tang Mart spirals, drowning in alcohol daily. People spot her hiding in some cheap rental far from the center, completely stripped of her former elite aura. From a famous designer, she becomes a pitiful joke, slowly fading into total obscurity on the edges of the industry. Meanwhile, his new company steadily stabilizes. He often finds himself working pretty late. That night, after finishing up past 9, he heads down to the underground parking garage. Now watch how crazy this gets. Nearing his car, a dark shadow suddenly lunges from behind a pillar, grabbing his arm. He yells out in panic, but it's Tang Mart. She changed so much, she is barely recognizable, filthy face and deeply sunken eyes. Greasy, tangled hair, reeking of alcohol and stench. There is zero trace of the perfectly groomed person she once was.
Bloodshot eyes crazed, she grips his arm with terrifying strength. Voice hoarse like rusting iron, she screams, "Why? Why did he have to be so ruthless?"
Taking the studio wasn't enough? Handing that stuff to Monkziu too? Does he know how badly Tang got beaten? His face is practically ruined. Seeing them this pathetic, he must be pretty happy, right? The initial scare fades, and he quickly calms down. Violently shaking off her filthy arm, he fixes his wrinkled sleeve, his eyes cold as absolute ice.
He shoots right back. Ruthless? When they openly humiliated him on that yacht, did they ever think about limits? When Lee Dong-tung paraded that recording around to show off, did they think about consequences?
When they schemed together to steal his assets, did they know what ruthless meant? Today is just karma, plain and simple. Right then, security guards rush over.
It takes several guys to drag Tum-Tang Mart away. She screams his name, her curses echoing loudly through the empty space of the parking garage. I get in the car, lock the doors, and take a deep breath. Between me and those people, every single debt is finally settled. As for Meng Yu, I am not really trying to investigate, but pieces of news somehow still find their way to me. Pushed to the absolute edge of anger and heartbreak, she refuses to crumble. Instead, she quietly sets her own plan into motion. She does not just verify the evidence I sent over. She actually digs up way more shady secrets on her own. Back on that yacht, those so-called friends were not just tagging along. Some of them knew about Tum-Tang Mat and Lee Dong-tang sneaking around way earlier. They all hid it together, turning her into a total joke.
Meng Xiu's fury quickly spreads from the two main traders right over to the entire group of enablers.
Coming from a powerful family, she is totally used to the fierce business world.
She is already sharp and incredibly well connected, but this time she turns into someone completely obsessed with payback. Leaning on some pretty underground connections, she reaches out to shady groups operating in the chaotic borderlands. Then she carefully crafts a massive, flawless trap, perfectly disguised as a high-paying recruitment offer.
A dark, totally ruthless revenge plan fully takes shape in her mind. A new target list is carefully selected.
Word on the street is that Meng Yu actually books an entire VIP room in a fancy restaurant to host a reconciliation dinner.
The guest list includes Tum-Tang Mat, Lee Dong-tang, and those same friends who cheered the loudest on the yacht while hiding the truth.
At the table, Meng Yu just sits there. Her face is weirdly calm, maybe even looking a bit drained, like she has completely given up on everything. Right in front of everyone, she stands up and raises her glass for a sincere apology. She openly admits she lost control and that lashing out was completely wrong. She says she has finally thought it through, realizing you cannot force affection. Tum-Tang Mat and Lee Dong-tang are the ones truly in love. She announces she is stepping back completely, calling it final closure for their youth. That sudden act of forgiveness instantly makes the whole table breathe easier. Some even sigh in relief, thrilled that the main victim is not holding a grudge, meaning their own mistakes mean nothing now. But then, Meng Xiu shifts gears, her tone getting incredibly mysterious. She complains about failing at romance, claiming she wants to ditch the past and throw herself entirely into her career. She reveals that a highly powerful friend over in Southeast Asia just introduced her to a ridiculously profitable business project, with profit margins so high you cannot even imagine them. At this point, Tum-Tang Mart has nothing left, completely desperate for a comeback. Lee Dong-tang is still battered and completely out of options, eager to reclaim his past glory. Meanwhile, their lazy, thrill-seeking friends are already heavily dreaming about striking it rich, literally overnight. But watch this. Hearing about this golden project, their eyes light up, pure greed instantly swallowing their logic. They completely forget how they used to mock her. They all start raising their glasses, practically begging and flattering her. They even cry fake tears of regret, pleading with Meng Yu to let them in. She pretends to hesitate, warning that the place has strict security and only takes select people. But facing their desperate and absolutely endless begging,
And all that totally ridiculous praise, she finally gives a reluctant yes. She promises to set everything up properly, guaranteeing they will be living the absolute high life very soon.
The dinner ends on a massive high note, everyone looking absolutely thrilled, like they just struck real gold. Her plan is flowing so perfectly, without a single visible flaw.
what happens next, I only managed to piece together from a few scattered news articles, some random social media leaks, and a handful of wild rumors.
Tum-Tang Mat, Lee Dong-tang, and their entire crew pick up their grand illusions of massive mansions, supercars, and millions in cash.
Following Meng Zio's careful arrangements, they excitedly catch a flight straight to a remote border town. The second they land, company representatives pick them up and immediately guide them through multiple hidden checkpoints. In no time, they are taken entirely out of the country. Arriving at this so-called company, a completely isolated compound in northern Myanmar, their entire dream just shatters instantly. No fancy high-rises here. No million-dollar executive titles, just heavy barbed wire, armed guards, and absolutely fierce-looking enforcers standing everywhere. Their phones and identity documents are brutally confiscated on the spot. They get locked up, threatened, and severely punished. Their actual job? Running telecom scams, sitting at computers all day, reading scripts to steal people's money. Anyone missing their quota or showing resistance instantly faces harsh physical discipline. Thrown in cages, completely submerged, enduring endless torment. In that place, human lives are treated like absolute garbage. Rumor has it that Meng Yeo collected a truly massive payout just for handing them over, then quietly flew off to a small European country, completely vanishing without a single trace. She pulled off the most ruthless, absolute payback imaginable. You have to admit, that is pretty chilling. As their paradise fades and the darkest gates open, Tum Tang Mat, Yi Dong Tang, and the rest plunge into an endless nightmare, screaming into the void with zero hope left. A few months later, news about the scam compounds in northern Myanmar starts blowing up everywhere. The media reports massive takedowns, revealing the tragic conditions inside, while international forces step up their joint operations. During one incredibly massive and highly coordinated joint sweep, the local police successfully tear down the exact hidden compound holding Tum Tang Mat, Yi Dong Tang, and countless other desperate victims. Dozens of people are finally rescued. Every single one of them barely survived a long period of entirely inhumane treatment, severe malnutrition, and brutal forced labor. Following news updates and wild online rumors slowly reveal even more dark, devastating details about their ordeal. Among all those victims, Tom Tong Mat and Yi Dong Tong desperately tried to escape, resisted fiercely, or just entirely lost their usefulness, so they were turned into total sacrifices for display. They got the absolute worst punishment imaginable. Sources claim both of them actually had their kidneys and other vital parts forcefully taken. Their bodies are permanently ruined now, needing intensive care for the rest of their lives. Their hollow faces and pathetic frames look completely different from their glamorous past, and the people who went with them certainly did not escape either. Some had their limbs totally shattered, becoming disabled, while others completely lost their minds to pure panic. When this news finally hit back home, it caused a brief wave of absolute shock in their old circles. But soon enough, their tragedy just turned into cheap gossip over drinks, getting nothing but pity, heavy sighs, or sarcastic jokes. They went there voluntarily anyway, so nobody else takes the blame. Time is clearly the strongest medicine, but also the sharpest knife. Meanwhile, I poured my entire heart into growing Trontrack Design. The company expanded step by step. Our projects won consecutive awards, and our fame spread fast. And I slowly stepped right out of that old darkness. I grew more independent, confident, and resilient than ever. Tonight is the absolute most prestigious design awards ceremony anywhere. I am stepping onto that stage to claim the Golden Peak Trophy for Best Design, the absolute most glorious moment of my life. But watch how quickly things shift. A light knock hits my dressing room door. My assistant peeks in, looking totally conflicted, hesitates, then hands me a phone. Boss Tran, breaking news, my assistant says. On the screen, a glaring headline instantly jumps out. Rescued victims from the northern camps include former industry elites. Tham and Y found in a tragic condition, vital parts removed, looking completely dire. Right underneath is a heavily censored, blurry photo, but you can still vaguely recognize two frail bodies lying totally motionless on those hospital beds. My eyes only linger on that screen for barely 3 seconds. Honestly, not a single ripple forms in my heart. It feels like reading completely unrelated social news. Those names, those faces, all that past drama just fades away like a totally different past life. I gently turn off the screen, hand the phone right back, and just say, understood. Then I take a deep breath, look right into the mirror, adjust my bow tie, and let an elegant, fully confident smile bloom.
I stand up and step outside, walking right into bright lights, loud applause, and cheering crowds. That right there is my real present and future.